Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei had different gauntlet and marry 6 girls part 2. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Nefarious doctor for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Issei woke up in his dream and saw that he was in a city. There was a wind blowing by and he noticed something on the paper that was flying in the wind. Headlines: Jack the Ripper strikes again. He saw many things when he was seeing the memories of all of the assassins within him. A little girl wearing nothing but a cloak. One born out of darkness and despair. All she yearned for was for a mother's warmth and a father who loves her. Issei felt an urge to comfort the child and keep her safe. The memories changed to 2 of the same clan. One had to suffer sadness because of the dangers that her body brings to others, and the other had a multitude of personalities, but one was superior to the others and acted as the main host of all of them. The memories changed to 3 assassins who fought for their country. The first was a black-haired ninja with synthetic arms and used wind to fight her enemies. The images changed to a brown-haired woman who looked like an angel, but inside she had killed many people with such angelic smile. She was even given the nickname Angel of Assassination. A new girl took her place and she was beautiful. The black-haired girl with twin tails and a flower in her hair. The memories showed her as a beautiful but wild woman who enjoyed talking with friends and some good booze. She fought and killed for her country, but because of either luck or the coward who left her, she died before she could even change China's future. Issei was then shown a woman who was born as a half-human and half-goddess. Having been abandoned by her own mother but then given a new life and married a good man who cared for her. However, Nimbus wanted the beautiful woman for himself, and sadly Semiramis could do nothing but offer her body to the king who took away her husband's life. The image changed to the wedding, and then the king died, leaving her to be the empress. Issei was then transported to a floating fortress. Inside of this fortress he saw a beautiful garden and a throne for a king and one for a queen. By instinct, he sat in the one meant for the king, and as soon as he sat down a pair of arms enveloped him in a hug. He turned to see Semiramis. She smiles happily at him and takes her place in the other throne beside him. Many others came in and 3 were very excited to meet him. They all came in front of him and kneeled before him. Semiramis walked to her fellow assassins and kneeled as well. "My lord, we the assassins of the Nazarick pledge our fidelity." Issei was surprised at seeing all of them kneel before him. "Raise your heads." They do as he says. Issei saw each of them looking into his soul, wondering about the one they call master. Issei clears his throat. "Listen. I know I'm weak." They all gasp as they heard him speak like this. "I have no real power or status or wealth. I'm just a human who was lucky to receive a great power. However, learning through all of these experiences and seeing through your memories, I must ask, do you truly accept me as your master?" Semiramis spoke. "I accept you for who you are. You're not a strong warrior, true. But your inner strength, your heart, and your will to never give in reminds me of the man I loved a long time ago. Many would wish to use the power you have for their own personal desires, but you only wish to use it to protect those you love and gain a harem, of course." She giggles at his embarrassment as he rubs the back of his head. Serenity and Thousand Faces step forward. Serenity spoke. "You don't care whether my body is poisonous. You accept me for who I am and you are safe from my touch. For the longest time, I've always wanted someone to be with me without dying because of my cursed body. So do you truly accept someone as ugly as I am?" Thousand Faces spoke. "I'm not an ordinary girl. I have thousands of personalities in me and each of them claw at my skull to be free, but your voice seems to pacify all of them. I accept you as my master." Charlotte, Jing, and Katten came forward. Charlotte asked, "Would you sacrifice yourself to save the ones you love? Would you be willing to stain your hand in blood in order to save the ones you love?" Issei responded without hesitation. "Yes." They smile and say, "There's 2 more, but you'll have to prove yourself." "How?" Then Issei felt pain in him. He exploded, leaving a trail of blood, and he turned to see twin swords at the back of his neck in an X form, and the cursed arm had blood dripping from the demon arm he possessed. Issei felt his strength leave him. He fell. Yu was disappointed in seeing the master dead and failed the test. She walked away from the corpse until she felt pain in her and saw a sword embedded in her. Cursed arm was surprised as well. "I don't understand. I killed you. How are you alive?" Issei smirked. "Simple. Thousand Faces." They all gasped at this. "I used a body double from Thousand Faces to take my place and used presence concealment to hide myself. Once you destroyed the heart of my doppelganger, I just grabbed the sword and got the jump on you. Rule number 1 of assassination. Always make sure the targets are dead." Cursed arm bowed before him. "You have my strength." Yu was gasping for breath until he took the sword out of her and looked at Semiramis. "Please. Heal her." She was happy that her master showed kindness to his enemies, so she got a healing potion and made her drink it. You drank it and she started to feel better, then she looked at Issei and stood up. Issei Haidu. You've passed but don't think for a minute I'll go easy on you in training. Issei smiles. I look forward to it. He was about to talk to Cursed Arm until a blur of purple tackled him and hugged him. He looked to see Jack hug him so much. I love you daddy. She snuggled in his arms. Issei just hugs her and smiles, something about her calling him daddy made his heart warm and happy. In his eyes Jack was a scared child who needed life and attention, and he would give it to her. He got up and placed her on his shoulder. Jack was so happy being close to her daddy, she grabbed on his head and took a small nap. Everyone, even Cursed Arm, chuckled as they watched the scene between the two. Issei started to glow, indicating it was time to go to the next world. He looks at them and says. Teach me all that you know and in return, I won't make you regret you being my partners. By the way, Cursed Arm, thanks for the help fighting Caster and Ryder. Cursed Arm smiles behind his mask and waves goodbye to his master. Semiramis goes back to her throne. We will fight and protect our master no matter what, and all who oppose him will fear his wrath and power. Everyone cheers when they hear this, ready to fight for their emperor. Behind everyone a woman with green hair and a gold snake surrounding her, watches everyone with interest before leaving the room. Pastor World. Issei woke up in a palace and noticed a few things that made his situation interesting. 1. He was on a girl's lap as a pillow and 2. This girl was a beauty. He looked up to see a pink-haired girl with fox ears and 9 tails. Her golden eyes were full of joy, and once she saw him wake up from his nap, she rubbed her hand gently on his cheek. Did you rest well? Was my lap to your satisfaction? Issei didn't trust his mouth and just nodded. Tamamo smiles, which enhances her beauty, and takes him off her lap. Come. I'm sure there's a lot of questions you have for us, but it would be better if you were with everyone. She led him to another room in the palace and opened the doors. The room was a banquet hall with many females here. One of them came up to Tamamo and Issei before signaling to all the girls to stop what they were doing. Everyone, our emperor is awake. Cheers from the girls erupt and they all take him to the center where a circle of pillows and cushions were placed so everyone can get comfortable while they talk. Tamamo led him to one and he made himself comfortable before a servant came and placed food in front of him. He thanked the servant, making the others smile at his manners before he asked. Thank you for being a generous host everyone, but I am afraid I do have some questions for all of you. Girls like Tamamo, Scheherazade, and Murasaki groaned while the others smiled at him, glad he wanted to understand the situation. Issei looked at everyone and started to name them. He started with Tamamo no Mei. She smiles. Issei turns to the 10 women in the group. Egyptian attire. Nitocris. The Queen of Jerusalem, you're the Queen of Sheba. And that makes the one in Arabian attire, Scheherazade. They were impressed he found out who they were, as if reading their minds, until he pointed to his head. Shared memories, remember? They blushed at the fact right in front of them, before he continued naming them. Lover of poetry and romance stories. Murasaki Shikibu. And the great inventor Leonardo da Vinci, but why are you a girl, people say you're a man. Leonardo rubbed the back of her head and said, true, but I'm actually a girl, believe it or not. Issei decided not to ask to keep his sanity, as if he had any after being thrust into the supernatural world, and proceeded to name the others. Monk-like attire, Xuanzang Sanzang and finally the dress of heaven, Erisviel von Einsborn. She had a sad look on her face and turned away until Issei came behind her and hugged her. I'm not mad at you if that's what you're thinking. She turned to look at him with tears in her eyes. But my daughter Ilya a kiss on her stopped her from finishing her sentence, and it took Leonardo and Xuanzang to stop Tamamo from attacking her. Erisviel cried tears until the kiss ended and Issei used his sleeve to wipe her tears. They stare at each other until Issei kisses her forehead and smiles. Thank you. All of you. Thank you. He flows and Tamamo decides to tell him. Avenger and Ruler will be giving you a test before you can use their power, but no, we're with you to the end. The others nodded and Issei smiled brightly before disappearing from the room. Tamamo gets the girl's attention. Are we all in agreement? Share him. The others look at each other and say. Share him. Erisviel was in her own world still imagining herself and Issei together on a date, making her happy. Berserker world. Issei was in a Japanese castle. Once more he was in the lap of a woman with long purple hair and wearing a purple outfit that hugged her body. She also had a sword on her hip along with a bow and bundle of arrows. She smiles as she pets his hair. Good to see you, Issei. She lets him get up and look outside to see a green-haired girl outside watching 2 girls duke it out. The first girl wielded a giant staff mace and wore a wedding dress. Her hair covered her eyes, but Issei could tell she was shy and had trouble speaking after listening to her talk during the fight. The other was a brown-haired woman wearing a soldier outfit and was shooting at the bride and occasionally tossed a grenade. The green-haired girl watching the fight had an aqua kimono and yellow eyes with a fan etched with gold that looked like a dragon. Her ears had gold earrings and white feather-like hairpieces. She looked at Issei and waved at him before patting the seat that was right next to her. Issei watched the fight and was impressed by the way they both fought. The bride uses her endurance to withstand the blows and then uses her strength to hit the opponent, while the soldier uses her speed and her strength to counter the bride's brute force. In the end, the bride won and the soldier was drained from running so much while getting hit by the bride one too many times. They both saw Issei watching their fight and ran towards him until a fireball landed in their path. Kiyohime had her fan unfolded and she giggled a little, making everyone nervous. Issei saw the possessiveness in her eyes and only did the first thing that came to mind. He pet her head and placed her in his lap. "That's a good girl, Kiyo-chan." Kiyohime blushed and smiled brightly at the attention she was receiving from him. Issei looked at the others and the samurai woman came out to join them. "Issei, it's to finally meet you. I'm Raiko, but you can call me mother or big sis. Either works for me." Issei remembers from the memories that Raiko doesn't understand the difference between lover and child. Note to self, explain what a lover is to Raiko. He looks at the others and admires the others looking at him with loyalty and devotion. "Nightingale, Frankenstein, thank you for a wonderful spectacle. I really enjoyed watching both of you fight. I can't wait to learn more about fighting Berserker style." They smile and Frankenstein hugs Issei, squishing Kiyohime in the process with her becoming more mature. Issei made a little breathing room for her and Kiyohime was able to squeeze out. "This is great and all, but you must know about Ruler and Avenger. They will be giving you a test, what is it gonna be we don't know, but it's best to be wary. As much as we want you to stay here, it's time to wake up." "What do you?" Amiya in. Issei was back in his room and noticed both Medusa and Medea in his bed cuddling him. Issei saw on his right Medea, she didn't have her cloak on and had a purple nightgown. Her hair went down to the middle of her back. Issei turned to his left and saw Medusa having a black and pink nightgown with her mask off. Issei kisses both of them on the forehead. Both of them smiled and Issei looked at the clock and saw that it was 7:50 am. He decided to get up without waking them up. He slid out of their arms and quietly got dressed before heading to the bathroom to brush his teeth and wash his face. As he washed his face and got ready for work, Sherm, Saber, Rin, and Sakura were missing from the room. Bazit and Luvia were watching the news while eating some breakfast. Issei turned to the kitchen to see Medea and Medusa cook in aprons matching their hair color. Their hair was in a ponytail fashion. Issei comes from behind and kisses them on the cheek. They were happy at the kiss, and Luvia was a bit jealous from the interactions between Issei and the servants. Luvia has to know why they care about him and vice versa. Bazit saw this without turning her head and smiled coyly. "Perhaps I can play a little matchmaker." She goes back to her coffee as Luvia asks Issei as they eat. "Why?" Issei asks surprised. "What? Why do you treat them as lovers instead of servants? That's what they are. Servants are meant to fight and kill each other in these wars, and yet you treat them like they're supposed to be friends." Issei saw the look and smirks before wrapping Medusa and Medea in his arms. "Are you jealous, Luvia-chan?" She blushed and Medea chimes into the tease. "Sorry, but I'm afraid there's not enough room for 4 people. Medusa lifts Luvia's chin and says, "You're cute." She kissed her cheek, Medea kissed the other cheek, and Issei kissed her. Luvia Angelita blushes at the attention and the kisses before fainting with a blood trail coming out of her nose and a peaceful look on her face. Bazit couldn't hold it anymore and laughed her ass off. "Ha ha 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 ha." She stops laughing after a while and wipes the tears away. "You are all evil. Respect." Issei thanks her for the compliment and looks at the time. 8:45 am. "Well, I gotta get going to work. Thanks for the breakfast, Medea." He gives her a kiss. "You too, Medusa. I loved the eggs." He kissed her as well before they followed him out to the door. Medea said, "Issei, wait. We have something to give you." Issei turns and sees a charm that says love. It's so pure and full of love from Medea and Medusa a normal person could see the hearts flying out of it. It's a charm to protect you from harm and good luck to the user. Issei thanks them both for the gift. "Girls, when this is all over, I want to give you two a special gift. Love. Eternal love." They blush at what he said and waved goodbye to him as he made his way out for the train. Issei made it to the train 10 minutes before it left and saw that all of his belongings were in the bag already prepared and ready. "Thanks, girls." He smiles at the note the girls left him. "Have a great day at work. Love, Medea and Medusa Zoxo." Issei put the note back in the bag and made sure the charm was with him. He refused to lose the gift that the girls made him. He got to his destination. The shopping district. As he stepped foot in the district, a group of people rang bells and popped confetti cannons. "Congratulations for being customer number 1 million. For a week, you can have anything from the stores here in the district for 80% off." They brought him to a game wheel. "But wait, if you want the chance to make it a month. Spin the wheel and get the golden marble." He spun the wheel and out came the golden marble. Everyone cheered for him and he got his deals and a photo ID to make sure it was him before he carried on his way to work. Issei noticed a briefcase on the ground and looked around to see who it belonged to. Seeing no one around, he took it to the nearest police station. Just as soon as he dropped it off, a guy came around. "My case. It's full of 1,000,000,000 yen." He gave Issei a quarter of the money. "That's 250 million yen. Correct me if my maths is wrong." He bows and thanks him. "Thank you so much. I'm so relieved." Issei was away from the station and took out the charm and thought back to what Medusa said. "This charm will grant you safety and good luck." He chuckles and thinks. "My luck changed from bad to wonderful the day I met the girls." He got to his workplace and noticed he was 20 minutes early. He clocked in and got comfortable while waiting for Seraphol to come in. Speaking of the devil, Seraphol came in her magic girl attire and accidentally tripped on the carpet after skipping a beat too soon and landed on someone's. Issei and Seraphol were kissing. It didn't help their case since Issei's arms were around her protectively. Seraphol separated from the kiss and saw the face of Issei. Issei saw the child in her but also a kind and gentle person. Seraphol saw warmth and love in his eyes. "He's not that bad looking. Maybe I can sneak into his harem." She wasn't objecting to it and if she could get her sister in the group then it would be heaven for her. She kissed him with fervor and Issei grabbed her bottom and squeezed it, making her, and they would have gone further if it hadn't been for a scream from a certain bespectacled girl. "Big sis. What are you doing?" They broke apart and separated from each other and the angry girl stomped on them to yell at them but didn't notice her shoes were untied. She tripped on them and landed with her connected to an Issei and her crotch in Seraphol's face. She blushes from the kiss and two things poking womanhood. She gets up and Seraphol whined from being separated from her sister. Issei was in a daze to even notice this until he caught himself and noticed Seraphol tried to kiss the girl again but Issei stopped her by grabbing her shoulder and held her back. The girl got up and adjusted her glasses and unwrinkled her clothes as she got back up. "Thank you for stopping her. My sister is a bit of a pervert and sis-con." Seraphol stuck her tongue out childishly and introduced Issei to her. "Issei met my super cute and adorable sister Sona." Issei remembers her after getting in trouble countless times, but she always seemed to be a lot nicer to him than the others. Sona was surprised when she saw Issei. Back at school he seemed weak and wimpy, but now he's strong. Her lust for him and power free in her soul. "I want him." Her sister wanted him and her sister to be with her forever and Issei had one thought. "This is my lucky day, alright." Issei woke up and noticed that he was in a different room. This room had 3 symbols that were in different colors. The first symbol was a scale that was fashioned in gold and silver. The second symbol was a jester hat that had the colors black on one side and the other side was white. The last one has a flaming skull that shows pure hatred. He turns to see what looks like a council with many individuals seated in the chairs. The first was a long blonde-haired woman wearing silver armor and had a white and gold flag that showed hope for all who saw it. Next to her was her polar opposite. She had black armor, long white hair, and her flag was white and black. It showed death to all who saw it. The mark was that of a black dragon. Issei saw them and their names just came to him. Jean d'Arc and Dark Jean. The girls look at him with a passive face, but if he looked closely he could see a warm kind smile on their faces. The next person was a blonde woman who looked like Saber, but instead of the schoolgirl clothes she wore daily, she now wore a white sundress with a white sun hat with a blue flower in it. She also held an umbrella that had yellow ring puffs at the top and end of the umbrella. She looked like she was going to the beach for a modeling shoot. Issei was amazed at the Saber. She noticed the look and made a suggestive pose that made him look away with a deep red blush on his face until someone pinched his cheek and made him look at another blonde-haired woman. This woman had long pigtails that went down to her feet. Her hair started as gold blonde for a bit until it went down to a light sky blue. Her attire looked similar to armor but had a touch of royalty to it. Her golden eyes stared into his brown eyes. Issei thought she was looking into his soul. She smiles and kisses his cheek. "You pass in my book." Issei wonders what she meant by that until a metal arm grabbed him. "What the?" The arm brings him to the lap of a voluptuous woman with long purple hair, a pink bow in said hair, and pink eyes. She actually had giant gold arms that have pink at the fingernails of said hands. She wore a white dress with a chain attached to the top with a collar around her throat. She puffs her cheeks out as she looks at him. Issei looked surprised until he decided to pat her head, which made her blush at the attention but made her happy. "Master. I am only another alter ego to the original and an AI with no understanding of love, so why are you treating me like I'm a normal girl?" Issei smiles and says. "You're not an AI. You're a beautiful young girl with a killer body that most girls would be envious of. You're shy, but still have your caring side. You hide behind fear because you're afraid of falling in love. Trust me, I know the feeling. You just have a few flashy weapons because fights are drawn to you." Pashinlap was surprised and smiled. "Master, you are a strange one indeed. Know you have my support. I should let you go before the snake steals you. Pashinlap, what do you mean? A tail came out and dragged him to another woman who looked similar to Medusa, but instead of just having long dark pink hair, this version had dark red and black serpents come out of her hair, and the snake sniffed him, as if making sure he wasn't a threat to them. Her attire showed her body very well, but also showed that she was an extremely powerful being that was not to be underestimated. Her eyes looked into his own. Are you afraid of me? She calmly asked. Issei looked at her face and nowhere else. Gorgon was starting to get irritated, so she got in his face. Are you deaf? Did you hear my questioner? Issei interrupts her with a gentle hug. Why should I be afraid of you when you're afraid of yourself? Gorgon is shocked by the reply, but her face is brought to see his face. You're a good person. I already know your writer self, and she is kind, calm, intelligent, and an amazing teacher. I see someone who was given a bad hand. You yearned for love and wanted to keep your sisters safe, but you hated the gods after what Athena did to you. He reaches out for one of the serpent heads and pets it. When I see you, I don't see a monster. I see a woman who's been alone for too long, and it's time to come out of the shadows. It's not easy, but even if others don't understand or are willing to accept, you know that I will be the one you can count on. He reaches out to her. Welcome to the family. I'll be happy to learn from you. Gorgon was shocked and had to ask. Why do you not find me disgusting? Any man would wish for a normal woman with a Y body and a romp for the night. Issei chuckles a bit. You really are an idiot, aren't you? Gorgon was mad at the comment, but before she could attack him, she felt someone stroke her head. Issei, surprisingly, put her head on his lap and brushed her hair on her head. You're a good girl, Gorgon. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. They're just jealous of your natural beauty. Gorgon blushes as she listens to him speak. I sense no disgust, fear, or any sort of ill will from his tone. Can he really accept me? She remembered seeing the writer version of herself be happy with him. I can see why. She smirks and kisses his head. She got up and looked at him. Thank you, Issei Haidu. Take care of my other self. I know you will. She looks to the back of the room. Come on, Oda. You have to see him as well. The black-haired woman comes out. Issei is surprised by Oda. She looks at him with a calm look on her face. You're an Avenger. Gorgon put a hand on his shoulder and whispered in his ear. Oda is an archer, but that's not her Avenger form. She looks at Oda. Come on now, don't be shy. Oda groans and becomes older with an adult body with flowing red hair that's deep crimson red like blood. Issei's jaw dropped at the side, and all he said was an angel from hell. Oda blushes at the comment, and Gorgon stifles a laugh until Jean bangs the bottom of her staff on the ground. We have more important business to attend to instead of teasing poor Oda. Gorgon, that's enough out of you. Issei came here. Issei nods and walks to the center of the room and sits in the chair. Alter Jean smirks at him. Jean whacked her head with her flag before looking at Issei. Issei Haidu. We are here to decide whether you are truly worthy of having the power of all of us. Asterius stands up. I don't speak for the others, but I do believe he is worthy of my power. She looks at him. I looked into his eyes and saw his soul. Is he perverted? Yes. Issei looks down. But. He looks at her. He also has a kind heart. I saw how he went out of his way to help others. He didn't ask for anything in return. All he did was just help others. Granted, he did go overboard with peeping on the girls. Oda, Gorgon, and Dark Jean laughed at this. Jean and Ruler Artoria were passive. Pashinlap was looking at her master. He never looked at them with lust. He wanted to know them for who they were. Their likes and dislikes, what made the girls them. Unfortunately, they only look at the surface and don't bother reading the pages of the book to see inside of it. She walks to Issei and places a hand on his shoulder before looking at the others. I vote for him worthy of my power. Issei and the others were shocked until Oda, Gorgon, and Dark Jean walked up to Issei. Oda speaks. I am already one of his archers. I know who he is and I trust him with all of my power. Gorgon nods her head in agreement. Dark Jean sits on Issei's lap and wraps her arms around Issei's neck. She grins at her light side and Ruler Artoria. Don't be jealous when I steal him from you two, Miss Goody Two Shoes and Bunny Girl. Jean and Ruler Artoria were mad until they looked at Issei, and Ruler Artoria had to ask a question. Issei. He looks at her. In your words, what would you protect? The castle or the king of the castle? Issei ponders about this, and his thoughts go to the memories of all the great warriors and leaders in his soul, until an answer hits him. He looked at her and said, there's only one answer. The soldiers swear an oath of loyalty to the king and the kingdom. So an attack on his people is an attack on him. Ruler Artoria smiles and looks at Jean. He gets my vote. Jean looks at him with calculating eyes as she looks into his soul. You are tainted by your lust, but you are able to control it. You have a pure heart, you wear it on your sleeve and will help anyone no matter what. You help those who are in need of it, you cast aside your pride and will fight until the end with your head held high and laugh at the danger. Is that right? Issei nods his head. Jean walks to him and has a faint blush on her cheeks. She leans in and says, "You have my vote." She kisses him with warmth and kindness. Issei was overcome by this, he didn't notice the dark Jean sitting on his lap, glaring at her light counterpart. She shoved the light version away and grabbed Issei's face and kissed him with vigor, love, and lust for him. Gorgon and the others watched the two Jeans fight for Issei's kiss. They didn't notice Pashinlip walk to her master and put him in her lap. "Are you alright, master?" Issei nods. "Of course. When you're here I feel invincible." She smiles and kisses his cheek quickly before looking away. That was for the compliment. Nothing else. Issei pets her head and realizes he's waking up. "I have to go now but I'll be back soon." The others wave him goodbye and give him a hug before he vanishes from their world. Artoria grabs some wine. "I'd say we celebrate." "Who's in?" Everyone cheered and got glasses to have some fun for the day. But all good things must come to an end as dark forces gather outside to bring humanity to its end. Fayuki Church. Girei Kodaman was never one to look a gift horse in the mouth, but seeing this thing in front of him offering a deal was too much even for him. Gilgamesh saw the massive giant Gosha come to the church in a smaller human-sized form. "This is my deal. Help me summon the Grail, and I will grant you power beyond your imagination." Girei had to know what the cost was. "What do I need to give in exchange for the power?" Gosha looks at him and says, "Allow me to inhabit your body so I may summon servants who will follow our orders. We will need the girl Ilya and her Berserker, but surely you can handle them." Girei nods in agreement and shakes Gosha's hand. The giant turns into a red mist and goes inside of his new host. Girei walks around, knocking away objects from trying to control the power. Gilgamesh watches in interest as the false priest tries to control the power. This will be interesting. Girei falls on his knees and doesn't move for a few minutes until his hand flexes and he stands up with his right eyes matching George's own right eye. Girei smiles darkly and looks at Gilgamesh. "Gilgamesh. We will need the girl and I think the anomaly and Shermamia are the key." She nods and Girei holds his hands out and 5 portals appear. Heroes of Saber, Assassin, Caster, Rider, and Berserker. Come forth and serve me. Guchulainen feels a dark aura corrupt him and all he can think about is aiding his master and killing everyone he fights in battle. Gilgamesh was unaffected but was miffed that the priest thought he controlled her, the queen of heroes. "Only one is worthy of being my king." Her thoughts turned to Issei. From the first portal, a blonde-haired woman wearing black armor and wielded a sword that was black and red. The aura around the blade was pure hatred and darkness. This was Alter Artoria. Saber class. The assassin appeared to be a warrior known as Sasaki Kajiro. The nameless samurai. The hero who developed a noble phantasm required no magic, just pure skill. Aster appeared to be a pale man with eyes that look like they're looking in both directions at the same time. He wore a blue coat with a red and black striped scarf around his neck and a spellbook in his hand. This was Gil's de Race. Ryder appeared to be a crossdresser with pink hair and a toothy grin that somehow increased his cuteness. He wore a king's cape and had a tiny crown on his head. This was Astolfo. Finally, Berserker was a blue knight covered head to toe in armor, and the aura around him roared in rage for the king he served in his past life. This was Lancelot. Girei looks at his servants. "Let us begin the meeting for the Holy Grail." They all grin in preparation for the fight. The battle for Ilya's life depends on the next battle. Side story. Jack the Ripper's mommies. Issei was walking with a little girl wearing a red shirt with a green dragon on it and wore black shorts. She had a pair of fake glasses as a gift from her father. They had no prescription and anyone who doesn't wear glasses can use them. The girl in question was actually Jack the Ripper. Apparently, today was Take Your Daughter to Work Day. Jackie heard about it from Medea and wanted to go see her father's workplace. Issei couldn't say no to the puppy's eyes, so he took her as long as she promised to be good. Sona and Seraphil see Jack as Issei walks in, and Seraphil rushes past everyone to see the little angel in front of her. Jack was scared of the lady in front of her and hid behind her father's leg. He saw this and explained to Seraphil. She's very shy and isn't used to people running up to her. Seraphil nodded in understanding, crouched down on the ground, and held her arms out for Jack. "Come to mommy." Jack looked at the lady and heard the word mommy. She leaped arms and snuggled while saying mommy's the best. "I love you mommy." Seraphil has a mental picture of her, Issei, and Sona in the bed, trying to make a little brother or sister for their precious daughter. Her nose explodes in a fountain of blood and faints from the image. Sona comes to check on her and sees Jack in front of Issei. Her mind turns to mush as she sees the adorableness of the child in front of her. She had a picture of her and Issei in bed, married and on the honeymoon. Things got steamy. Her head steams from the hot image and Jack looks at Sona and says the words that knock her out like her sister. "I love you mama." Sona has a small nosebleed and faints next to her sister. Issei laughs a little at the sight and Jack pokes at them before looking at her father. Are mommy and mama okay, daddy? Issei just pats her head. They're fine. It's just that spring came early for them. And before you ask, I won't tell you until you're 18. Understood? Jack nods her head and Issei rubs it. Come on. Let me show you my work area and what I do all day. Jackie follows her father and giggles at her mothers who are still on the ground. Mommy and mama are funny, but I still love them just like I love daddy. Now with that out of the way, the battle for Ilya's life shall begin. Emiya in. 2 weeks later. It had been 2 weeks since the threat from Gosha, but there has been no sign of him at all. Not even a trace of magic. Meanwhile, the team continued to go on with their lives with training, work, and sometimes going out on a date with a beautiful girl. Issei was trained in magic by Bazit and Luviagilita. Issei was surprised when he learned he has elemental magical potential inside of him. Fire and wind, a deadly combination. Issei learned how to conjure fire without burning his hands and how to conjure the wind to enhance his speed. It took him a while, but eventually he got the summoning part down, now all he had to do was use them to attack. I feel like a firebender from Avatar. Luviagilita helped him with the control of how much magic he inserted into his attacks, she even taught him how to use reinforcement on his clothes, weapons, his arms and legs to help his physical strength. The two have gotten to know each other a bit more and have gone on a few dates that Bazit set up for them. She wanted to see the heiress fall for the warrior and it looked like she was right on the money. Issei showed Luvia how to have fun without magic like the arcade, movies, and even a nice trip to the park made her happy. Issei liked seeing her smile and hearing her laugh, it was a sign that she did enjoy spending time with him. She even liked Issei's cooking, granted it's nowhere near Shiru's or Sakura's, but he's getting better every day. Luviagilita was happy that Issei didn't care that she was of royalty. He didn't treat her like she was some fragile piece of glass. Issei treated her like a person, granted he did spoil her a bit, but not so much like the other men at the clock tower do when they gaze at her with lust and greed. Luvia liked learning more about Issei and slowly she developed feelings for him and saw him as a potential boyfriend. Shiru was happy that the two were getting along, but Rin was being a bit of a jerk by calling her a gold-digging hag or fancy pants bitch, and let's just say when the two heiresses their heads each other, it takes both Shiru and Issei to separate them. They are like cats and dogs trying to tear each other apart. Issei was a very good peacekeeper or had incredible timing because most of the fights happen just as he gets home from work. When that happens Luviagilita drops the fight and tries to act like a wife greeting her husband after a long day of work. He always made time for her and wanted to hear about her day. Luviagilita knew from then on, she would try to be an exceptional wife that her future mother and father-in-law would admire and hopefully give her their blessing to someday marry Issei. Bazit helped him with his training hand to hand. At first, he sucked so bad that he got kicked next week, but he started to get the hang of it. Now he can give her a good fight for 5 minutes until he's on the ground. The good learned a bit about each other over the past few weeks. Bazit liked Issei for his determination and his inner strength. He may not be the toughest guy she trained, but he is the bravest one yet. Slowly, like Luviagilita, she developed feelings for him and wanted to get to know him more, but wanted to wait until the war was over. As for his training with his servants and Drake, Issei has been getting better at using saber, rider, caster, lancer, and archer. Assassin was good for infiltration, interrogations, and quick deaths, but he was saving that one for emergency uses. Berserker was a bit of a last trump card for him because of the risk of the mad enhancement effect that all Berserker servants have within them. Some are able to control their sanity, but there are some who are influenced by the enhancement because of their past lives, lives with deep emotions such as hatred, fear, disgust, or even depression. According to Drake, Issei was close to achieving his balance breaker, but he needed a push, something to make him want to become stronger. Sacred gears can evolve to even greater heights and achieve greater power if their wielders have the will and the inner strength to push themselves past their limits. Little did Issei know, that time was coming soon. Medi and Medusa trained him when he had time off to train him in magecraft and research on other warriors and how to defeat them. Media loves to dote on Issei and often competes with Luviagilita to be the one who welcomes him home after a long day at work. Medusa enjoys snuggling with Issei in the shared bed, he's taken them out on a few dates, but he wanted to show them what the world looked like outside of Fuyuki City. The two of them didn't mind going out on simple dates with Issei, as long as he was himself and didn't hide secrets from them. The two spoke with Luviagilita to get her opinion of her feelings with Issei. Luviagilita claims she has feelings for him, but they weren't officially dating, even though she wanted that. The two servants told her that she has their permission, as long as she doesn't try anything with Issei. If they find out that Luvia was only using him, then she would suffer 1,000 deaths. Shiru and Issei have gotten along when it came to sparring, and they had sort of an understanding. Shiro wanted to help everyone and become a hero of justice, even if it meant sacrificing his life and tossing him away. Most people did call him a fool and an idiot for chasing a childish dream, but he didn't care, as long as he could help those in need it was fine with him. Issei on the other hand wanted to use the power to protect those he loved, but if the villain wishes to become his friend and repent, then he will be their friend. He will fight, but not just because they want to fight with meaningless bloodshed. Issei didn't care about the rivalry between Drake and Albion. If the wielder of Albion wanted to be his friend then that's fine with him, choosing to fight just because of a rivalry that two deceased dragons had is illogical and idiotic, that's a terrible reason to live. Archer and Shiro don't exactly see eye to eye. There are times when the two will start to fight and it takes one look from Sakura to make them both stand down. When it came to fighting in front of Sakura, they didn't want to make her cry, that was worse than the puppy dog eyes. Sakura picked up on magic quickly and has gotten along with her big sister Rin. At first, it was surprising to see that Sakura was actually Rin's little sister, but it was the truth. The two have been a bit distant at first, but thanks to Shiro and Archer, the two were able to come together and talk it out. Rin liked having her sister back with her and apologized for not being there when she needed support. Sakura, the kind girl, forgave her and only wanted to make more memories with her, happy ones away from the nightmares she had from her adopted family. As for Issei's workplace, Issei was surprised to learn that Seraphol and Sona were a part of the supernatural world as devils. Not just ordinary devils, but a devil queen and heiress. Flashback. A week ago. Issei was called to report to Seraphol's office before he clocked out. He didn't know what was up until he saw both Seraphol and Sona in the room. He sighed. I knew this was coming. He sat on a chair in front of him. Seraphol turned to him. Issei, do you know why I called you here? If this is about the love triangle triple death incident, I swear I did not do it. That was that coward Makoto Ito. He was the one who basically two-timed those girls who loved him. It's his fault that he wasn't more honest with himself and the two girls. Makoto was killed by one of the girls because of her jealousy and hatred for the bastard for timing her. The girl was stabbed to death by the crazy chick that was infatuated with him. Personally, the guy deserved far worse than a quick death. Seraphol and Sona were surprised until they cleared and shook their heads. That's not the reason and we know you weren't involved even though you were acquainted with him. The reason we called you here was because of something else. Do you believe in the supernatural? Issei shrugs his shoulders. I do think there's more to the world around us. Why do you ask? Seraphol revealed her wings as did Sona. Issei is surprised by the bat-like wings. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Seraphol Leviathan. One of the four masks that govern the underworld. Sona introduces herself as well. My real name is Sona Citri, heiress of the Citri clan. Issei was shocked but knew something was up. You're not here to take my soul, right? Seraphol and Sona looked at each other and laughed a little until Sona told him. No, we don't take people's souls. That's illegal in the underworld. If we were members of the old Mao maybe, but the new Mao faction doesn't allow it at all. Seraphol decided to explain the situation. Centuries ago there was a three-way war between angels, fallen angels, and devils. The war ended in a stalemate with devils taking some of the worst damage, especially with the original Satans being killed in a fight with the biblical god and multiple pillars of hell going extinct. Sona then took over. After the war was no better for us, she continued. The death of our leaders left a power vacuum that led to a civil war between those who wanted to continue the war. That stance was held by the family of the original Satans and were labeled as the old Satan faction. She held her left arm outwards as if she were holding or weighing something. She then did the same with her right arm before moving them up and down as if trying to compare the weight of something. On the opposing side were those that wanted to keep any more fighting between the biblical factions halted. This faction was dubbed the New Satan faction. She then dropped her hands and continued speaking. The civil war continued on for many years, leading to more deaths and the loss of more pillars. Eventually the new Mao faction won, and the four generals that led them were named the New Satans, gaining the titles of the old ones, Lucifer, Asmodeus, Leviathan and Beelzebub. Seraphol made a peace sign when Leviathan was mentioned, but Sona continued on with the explanation. However, there was a new problem. Due to devils having a birth rate of once every century or so, there was a distinct lack of a population that left our species as a whole desperately underpopulated. To fix this, Ajuka Beelzebub, a genius inventor, created a system to resurrect other species as devil servants under a given master. This system is known as the Evil Peace system, as it is based off of a chess set in its design and execution. Issei puts his hands under his chin and leans in. Let me guess. You want me to join your faction so you can have a powerful individual on your side and to possibly give you a child with my powers. He put his hand down and shook his head. Sorry, but not interested in being a slave and surrendering my humanity. Seraphol clarifies the issue. You may become a devil and no longer be human, but there are benefits to joining us. Issei responded. Sorry but no. And my answer is final. I need to go. I got more important stuff to do. Soma shouted. Even as the Red Dragon Emperor, you need help to fight Gosha. Issei stopped in his tracks. How do you know that name? He turned to see that Seraphil was shivering as well when that name was spoken. Issei walked back to the chair and asked. How do you know that name? Only a few of us actually met him. Seraphil spoke to him. I have been watching you since the first day you arrived in Fuyuki City. I knew you possessed a powerful sacred gear, but I didn't know which one until I sensed the power of the Red Dragon. She grabbed Issei's hands and brought them to her. Please understand we aren't your enemy. We want to help you. I know you wish to keep your other power a secret, but please let Sona and I help you with this fight. Issei thought and did see the pros of having them on their side to fight Gosha. They need all the help they can get. You'll have to talk with my team in order to know of our game plan. Sona and Seraphil agreed with him and walked with him back to the Amiya Inn. Then flashback. After talking with them, they decided to help us, and Bazit agreed to accept their help as long as they entered a contract that they would not try to convert any of us into a Devil Peerage member. Seraphil tried to corrupt Sakura, Rin, Medea, Medusa, and Luviagilita into joining her as a magic girl. Only Sakura was exposed to the magic girl virus. She enjoyed dressing up as a magic girl and using her magic with a wand. Sona and Shiru were a little scared when Sakura turned a chair into candy, and she enjoyed it. Seraphil enjoyed learning more about Issei and the others. One day she wanted to make Issei her husband because she had slowly started to fall for him. At first, she saw him as a cute boy to tease, but after seeing him in the inn made her see him in a new light. Also, Issei was one of the only people who actually put up with her antics and saw her as Seraphil, not the Leviathan or even afraid of her. Sona learned a bit more of magic lessons from Medea and was quite surprised to see her and Medusa cuddle up on Issei. They acted like they were a married couple, an old married couple. She began to feel jealous of the affection that those two were getting from Issei. Sona always wanted a smart husband and knew Issei was many things, but smart was definitely not one of them. However, after seeing his determination to get stronger and his strength, she started to see who he is. Present. One evening, Issei was home and was watching the news with Bazit and Medusa. There was a knock at the door and everyone wondered who would be at the inn this time of the night. Issei went to the door and didn't see anyone. Just as he was going close to the door, he saw a package on the floor. It was addressed to him from Ilya. He went back inside and showed the package to the girls and opened it. All that was inside was a DVD. He popped it into the TV and hit play. The screen showed Ilya with her innocent look on her face. Hello Mr. Anomaly. You probably already know who I am, but just for pleasantries, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ilyasviel von Einsborn and of course you already know Berserker. The giant growled in the back. Now the video is because I want to speak with you about those cards you have. I know what you're thinking, why does she want to meet with me? Well, the answer is simple, if you don't come here, Berserker is going to take away someone precious to you. She walked to the side to reveal Issei's parents tied up in chairs and their mouths gagged with a cloth. Issei was furious and surprised that his parents were at the kid's home instead of the cruise. One of the maids undid the gag on his mother and she looked at the screen. Issei. Don't do anything the brat says, she just wants. A punch to her gut knocked her out. Ilya turned back to the screen. So now that you know what's at stake, what will you do? Save them or let them die by Berserker? The choice is yours. Bye. The disc finished the recording and Issei was not a happy camper. He glared at the TV and only thought of beating the little brat by giving her a spanking of a lifetime. Medusa and Bazit were pissed at the kid for bringing innocent civilians involved and were worried for Issei. Issei pulled out his phone and hit the speed dial on the first contact. Luvia, is Rin there? Good. Tell her that it's a code red. Ilya has my parents. He looked at the girls behind him and said. This means war. Later at the inn. Issei explained to everyone what they saw and showed them the video. Suffice to say, there were many people pissed at the brat, but we're scared of what to do. Listen, I know that Berserker terrifying, heck I'm scared too, but I refuse to back out now. Ilya has gone too far and dragged my parents into this war, we will fight the Berserker. Ilya thinks she's won, but she hasn't. If we run away now, how can we even stand up to Gosha? Those who don't want to come can stay, but I'm going to the mansion. He gets up and heads to the door along with Medea and Medusa until a voice stops them. Issei, wait up. We're coming with you. He turns to see Luviagilita and Bazit armed and ready. A hand is placed on his shoulder. Issei turns to see Rin, along with Shiru, Archer, Saber, and Sakura. You're not alone. We're coming with you, you're going to need all the help you can get. Issei saw this and was happy he wasn't alone, but this wasn't the time for tears. He walked to the forest. Alright everyone, time to take the war to the Einsburn family. Pyuki Forest. Issei, along with Luvia Agilita, Bazit, Medea and Medusa were in front of the forest, and as Luvia touched the barrier, her hand was numbed for a bit, but it was fine. Quite a barrier she put. Bazit nodded. Indeed. I bet we can break it. Issei agreed with them and looked at Medea. Medea, care to knock. She pulled out Rule Breaker and stabbed the barrier and forced it to dissipate. That takes care of that pesky barrier. Don't worry about the army, I have one right behind me. She extended her arms and, true to her word, an army of dragon tooth warriors stood behind her. Issei nodded and tapped the communicator in his ear. Barrier is down. Team Hero moves in. Rin on the other side responded. Understood. Let's move out people. Archer and Saber followed her as Shiru and Sakura stayed in the rear to watch their backs. Sona and Seraphil saw the barrier explode and knew it was time to move in. While this happened, Ilya saw this from her room and decided to roll out the welcome mat for them. What happened next shocked everyone as the trees moved out of the way and formed a straight path to the castle. Shiru saw this and said. It's definitely a trap. Agreed, but we have to keep moving whether we like it or not. Issei responded as both teams moved towards the mansion. Seraphil and Sona used a cloaking spell on themselves to hide their presence as they made their way to the back of the mansion. The sisters got in easily without alerting the maids or Berserker. Sona pulls out a location spell. Find Mr. and Mrs. Haidu. The spell paper turned into a paper bird as it flew towards a room in the very back of the mansion. Seraphil opened the door and noticed there were no spells or traps in place. Must be because their magic is less human. The bird flew in and made its way to the center where a barrier was in place, keeping the two parents trapped within. Sona poured a little magic into the barrier and dispelled it. Mrs. Haidu woke up and saw the two before she was struggling with the rope. SHHH. Be quiet. We're here with Issei and came here to help. The mother stopped and saw Sona untie them from the chairs. Mr. Haidu woke up and saw the two before he got in front of his wife. You're not hurting her. Take me but not her. Seraphil calmed him down. Listen to me. We're with Issei, but we have to get you two out of here as soon as possible. The entire mansion shook from a blast. Sona tapped on the communicator. Issei, what's going on? Issei responded. Get them out of there. The mansion's being attacked by some kind of tentacle monster. We'll figure it out but get my parents out of there. Now. Mrs. Haidu grabbed the communicator and said. I'm not leaving my son to fight these monsters. Please come with us. I can't bear to lose you. Mr. Haidu took the communicator and asked. Issei, are you sure you can do this? Issei responded yes. Know that I love you, but I can't fight with you guys in the danger zone, so please go with Seraphil and Sona. You can trust them. Just go. I'll meet you at the inn, we can laugh it off with a drink and some good food. I'll cook, sounds good to you guys. Mrs. Haidu laughed a little and said, you better make it back. I promise. Now go. The husband put away the communicator and asked Sona. How do we get out? Seraphil teleported them out of the home and informed Issei and the team. But Issei and co. Issei just heard his parents were saved and sighed in relief until he looked at the squid-like creature attacking the mansion until it stopped. Everyone wondered why the creature stopped until more individuals came out of the forest. Ilya brought up a magic screen and it revealed Kirei's personal servants. Issei saw the servants. Gosha. He must have summoned these guys to get Ilya. We need to take out that monster first. Who's got a noble phantasm that can wipe that thing off the face of the world? Artoria walked up. My Excalibur can eliminate that beast and cats leave him to me. She looks at Shiru. Please wait for me here. I know you wish to fight, but this is war and those servants are far more powerful than you, so please do as I ask. Shiru didn't want to leave Saber but knew if he went out there, he'd be killed in an instant. I understand. Promise me you'll come back. Artoria nodded and walked to the door until she turned around and walked back to Shiru. What's wrong? Sarin and Sakura were shocked that Artoria grabbed Shiru and kissed him on his. Shiru relaxed and kissed back as he enjoyed her. She tastes sweet and her hair reminds me of a grassy plain filled with flowers. Artoria was enjoying the kiss until their lungs gave out as they needed air. Rin and Sakura were blushing as they wanted to kiss him first but controlled themselves as they would get time later. Archer was shocked but laughed a little seeing Shiru blush from the kiss and Ilya's eyes were covered by Sela while Lisa tilted her head in question of the boy's reaction. Issei was proud of Shiru getting a kiss from his secret crush, now all he has to do is get Rin and Sakura to confess their feelings to him. Medea was gushing at the romance around her and started to ask Artoria about what kind of wedding she wanted with Shiru. Medusa shook her head with a smile as she enjoyed the moment until she got their attention. Hate to be the party breaker, but we got trouble outside. Issei agreed and saw Kuchulainen. I'll deal with Lancer. I got an old score to settle with him. Medusa, you and Medea work together and take out Assassin and Rider. Rin nodded. Archer, can you deal with Saber? He looked and saw the fall saber. Leave her to me. Issei looked at Ilya and got on his knees, surprising everyone in the room. Ilyasvil von Einsborn. I need your help in this battle. Please lend us Berserker and his power. Gosha is a being who's trying to summon the Grail but needs your life. We don't stand a chance against his Berserker, but with your power and Hercule's strength, we might have a chance at winning this battle. So please help us. Ilya saw this and thought of her next move. If what he said is true, then this is a real war, no longer for the Holy Grail but for much more. She saw her maids and knew they were with her as well as Berserker. She turned to see Shiro and Archer look at her with their eyes saying help us. She sighs and lifts her arm. With a command seal, I order thee. Berserker, get that fake Berserker. Show me your power. Berserker roared and leaped out of the mansion. He landed on the ground and saw the Blue Knight. He roared and charged with his stone axe, with Lancelot roaring and charging with his staff. Issei looked at her and said, thank you. Ilya huffed. I'm only doing this because you asked. Don't get the wrong idea. Issei laughs a little and pats her on the head. Thank you for your generosity. He kissed her forehead, making her blush, Sela wanting to murder him, and Lacet amazed at the boldness of the warrior. Mrs. Ilya, do you like older men? Ilya blushed even redder than a tomato and fell to her knees, covering her face with her hands. No one has kissed me on the forehead before, not since father and mother left. She got up and looked at Issei. Please come back to Big Brother Issei. I will. Everyone moved out. The team prepared for the Battle of the Einsborns. Yes, sir. And? Just kidding, let's get ready to rumble. Battlefield. Berserker clashed with Lancelot as the two fought with their fists and weapons. Lancelot lunges with his staff and strikes Hercules with blows to his legs, making him fall to his knees. Lancelot pulls out a gun and points it to Hercules' head and shoots his brains out. Lancelot roared thinking he won. Hercules started to heal himself and punch Lancelot in his helm. Lancelot was startled before he roared and pulled out a Gatling gun and began to fire on Berserker. Hercules runs to avoid the bullets and then jumps into the air, using his sword to deflect the storm of bullets until he slices off Lancelot's arm that held the gun. Lancelot roared and used his staff to plunge it and kick him away. Hercules rolled into the trees until his noble phantasm kicked in and healed him from the stab to his heart. Lancelot charged in and started to slash at him with his sword, but Hercules grabbed it and snapped it in half with his own strength. Hercules grabbed Lancelot and sliced off his remaining arm before he could back away. Lancelot was tired, but with his mad enhancement, he used the last of his power to use his noble phantasm. He transformed into his plain form and locked onto Hercules and fired his missiles. Hercules tried to run from the explosions but got caught in them. Lancelot flew back to the ground and turned back to normal. He looked to see if Hercules was still alive but didn't see him. As he turned to walk away. Roar. Hercules was red as he charged towards Lancelot. Hercules grabbed Lancelot's helmet and punched both sides of the helmet hard and created a massive dent on the sides. Lancelot was tired from the pain, and no matter how angry he was with the mad enhancement, he can no longer use his arms since they were sliced off of him. Hercules decided to finish the night and end his misery. He went behind Lancelot and lifted his stone axe as he swung. Lancelot didn't even try to fight, and the Knight of the Lake was beheaded by the great warrior of Greece. Medea and Medusa vs Astolfo and Sasaki. Medusa was running towards Assassin and brought out her chains. She threw them at him, who raised his sword and blocked the attack until Medusa's foot connected to his face and sent him back into a tree. Medea was in her caster attire as she flew into the sky and fired many spells at the pink-haired rider while summoning a few dragon warriors. Astolfo was using her sword to fight the dragons until he was hit with a blast of magic. Man, you really pack a punch, don't you, lady? Astolfo summons a normal horn until it grows into a giant one. This is my favorite type of music. He blew into the horn and the sound could be heard throughout the entire battlefield. The skeletons were blown away by the blast and Medea was able to keep herself afloat thanks to a quick spell. I need to take out her noble phantasm soon. She looked at her and thought. Wait, that's it. She flew straight towards Astolfo and started to fire many spells at him, but Astolfo ran and ducked behind a few trees to cover him. Damn, this lady may be a caster, but I wouldn't want to get on her bad side. He readied his lance and summoned his beast. The hippogriff. Astolfo got on his beast and rode into battle. Prepare yourself, caster. Caster fires a multitude of speeds, but Astolfo is prepared and summons one of his many noble phantasm. Casseur de la Gestil. Destruction declaration. The pages flew and covered him as he continued his path to Medea. She kept firing multiple spells to break through the shield, but to no avail. Astolfo readied his lance. This is over. Medea was stabbed and the daughter body fell off the lance and landed on the ground, the shield went down, and Astolfo looked at Castor's dead body. Sorry lady, it's nothing personal. I'm following my master's orders, whether I like it or not. Ryder looked and saw Sasaki was having trouble with Medusa. I need to go help him. Just as he was about to turn. Sorry little girl, but you lose. He turns his head, only to feel something stab him. The hippogriff turns into magic once more and disappears. Astolfo tried to get back up and summon his lance, but he couldn't no matter how hard he tried. What's going on? Why did hippogriff disappear? He was blasted in the back by magic and stumbled in the dirt. Astolfo heard footsteps and looked up to see Castor. Medea had a malicious smile. How cute. You thought you killed me? Oh ho 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 ho. Dear child, you were facing a clone the whole time. Astolfo's eyes widened as he heard this. Medea looked at the servant and decided. We do need information, so don't worry, you'll live. For now. Nighty night. She kicked him in the face, knocking him out. Medea looked in the direction of Medusa. I do hope she's alright. Medusa was using her chains and reflexes to weave around Sasaki, who was trying to slice her with his sword. The two were neck and neck. When Sasaki moves to slice her, she either uses her chains to block the attack or dodge it. When Medusa moved to attack, Sasaki dodged the attack with his skills but got nicked a few times from the nails. It was as if two warriors clashed in a dance of death. Sasaki decided to finish this fight. Prepare yourself. Medusa readied herself as she saw Sasaki slowly raise his sword into the air and positioned himself in the striking pose. Secret technique. He opened his eyes. Now. He struck. Swallow reversal. The three strikes came and Medusa was able to defend herself from two of them, but the third got her mask. Her mask fell and when she looked at Sasaki, he began to turn to stone. Sasaki didn't bother to try to move. I see it's over for me. Thank you for figuring me out. You truly are a beautiful flower. Your master is one lucky man. I would have been honored to meet him. The nameless assassin was stone. Unmoving. Dead. Medusa walked to the statue and tapped his head. You two would have gotten along splendidly. Now rest in peace. She kicked the statue in the and destroyed him. It is done. She looked into the night sky and saw the monster fighting Saber, who held herself quite well against the beast. She felt Issei trying to communicate with her. Medusa, can you hear me? She responded. Yes. I do, what is your command? I need you to aid Saber in fighting that freak of nature. Have Medea go with you so she can keep that thing busy. By the way, thank her for the prisoner. With this servant we should be able to get some information on Kirei and Gosha. Medusa was happy to hear that but had to ask. Are you alright? Issei sighed on the other side. Just a little tired after fighting Kuchulain. I beat him and I unlocked a new power. I'll tell you later, right now aid Saber in battle. That's an order. Medusa smiles knowing he's safe. Understood. She cut off the communication. She saw Medea. I believe you already received our orders. Medea nodded and looked at the monster. Ready to kill that thing. Medusa got on her beast. The great winged horse Pegasus. Let's fly. Pegasus took off and Medea followed her. Issei versus. Issei ran into the Einsborn garden with the boosted gear out and ready to fight. He saw someone on the grassy field outside of the garden. Issei walked cautiously to the person and asked, who are you? The figure turned his head to look at him and replied. I'm a hurt kid. My master is one of your teammates and you don't even recognize her own student. The figure turns his whole body to face Issei. Been a while, kid. Issei was surprised by Kuchulainen. Why are you here? Who answers, I don't want to kill the kid, but my master used a command seal, so I got no choice. He twirled his spear in the air. That being said, I was hoping to run into you again. He grabbed it and pointed it to Issei. Let's see if you have the right to be my master's student. Use any power you wish, makes it more fun. Issei grabbed the Lancer card. Include, Lancer. A blood-red spear formed in his hand. Prepare yourself, Satanta. Time to show you what I've learned from the woman we call master. Satanta smirks and charges in. Issei ran towards him and they clashed spears. The battle between the Shield of Ulster and the Red Dragon Emperor begins. Issei and Ku clashed spears one another. Ku was trying to close the distance with his speed, but Issei kept using the boosted gear to increase his speed. Reinforcement. Issei's clothes became more durable. Ku saw this and decided to switch things up a little. He taps the ground and a bright light covers the field. Issei is blinded temporarily. I can't see Drake was there for his partner. Drop. Issei dropped to the ground as Ku tried to skewer him. He smirks. Not bad. But is that all you got? Issei gets up and shakes his head until his vision clears and decides to go to Diarmuid. Include, Nagi Kagetora. Another lance appeared in his left hand. The lance had a red ribbon wrapped around the bottom of the blade and flew in the wind. Ku is surprised by this but likes a challenge. He twirls his spear and readies himself. Issei looks at the Shield of Ulster. Prepare yourself, Kuchulain. Issei charges in and swings the spears at Lancer. He deflects one but dodges the other spear. I'll finish this now. Lancer jumped back and leaped into the air. You're good but not good enough. His spear turns blood red and releases his noble phantasm. Abolg. The spear flew and as it reached Issei's heart, time froze. Issei saw that he couldn't move, but neither could Ku. What's going on? He hears someone approach him. How disappointing. A child that was granted the powers of other heroes and yet can't even surpass that of a normal servant, even with the powers of the boosted gear. You could have ended the battle with the Queen of the Shadowlands' noble phantasm, and yet you didn't, why? Issei looked at the woman and thought he saw a goddess before him. She looks like Artoria, but something's different about her. She has the air that ruler has, the appearance of saber, but I don't see her sword. What is she? He looks back at Lancer and says. I wanted this fight to be a battle of honor. We were both trained by the same master, but it seems I have far more training to do, but I don't want to die yet. I promised my family I would return and I will keep this promise. The woman looks at him and brings his face to her own. You're a brave but foolish child. You remind me of myself when I was human. Issei was shocked. What do you mean? Aren't you already a human? She shook her head. I have been a ghost for many years and have lost my emotions and humanity. There's no point in continuing on, but then I sensed a powerful aura come from the city. She points a finger at Issei's head. You. She then summoned a lance that was white as snow and it radiated an aura of holy power. Issei felt its power from where he stood. Braig appears in front of him as well. What's your answer, partner? Didn't you say you were going to protect them? Your friends, your loved ones, even your parents. Issei saw their faces and realized that he's been an idiot the whole time. I guess I still have more growing up to do. He sees the spirits that reside within him appear in front of him. The goddess looks at him and gives him her lance. I've sensed your power. When the hopes and dreams of the people of our world reside in this lance. Give them hope and bring forth a light that will break the darkness. Now stands Issei Haidu. Stand and claim this power. Issei realizes he can move and touches the hilt and feels a new power flow into him. His eyes widened until he looked content. He sees the spirits fade away with a smile on their faces, even drag until it was just him and the goddess. She disappears in a shower of golden light and goes into his body. I'll be with you every step of the way. Now show me what kind of a king are you? One who rules by fear and oppression or one who leads by their ideals? Issei sees three kings stand before him. One with a red cape and a chariot pulled by a pair of bulls. A woman with golden hair and armor. The woman looked familiar to Issei for some reason. A memory appeared in his mind, but he couldn't see the whole picture. And lastly, Artoria Pendragon. Issei sees time unfrozen, and as the spear reaches his heart, he closed his eyes and said the words that would unlock a new power for him. Balance breaker. The spear was knocked away from Issei as a red pillar of light appeared around him. A new power surrounds the pillar and it reaches the sky as if heaven is blessing the boy. Ku grabs his spear and covers his eyes. What the hell is this kid? Archer and Alter Saber stop their fight as they see the pillar. What the hell is that? Alter Saber is shocked as she feels the power. Amazing. Artoria, Medea, Medusa, and Castor saw the pillar, and Medea, along with Medusa, knew it had to do with their master. Issei. Artoria and Castor felt the power and a warmth filled their bodies. Shiru and the other mages, including Berserker and Astolfo, saw this and was shocked. Gosha and the other beasts felt this and believed a god was descending into this battle. Ilgamesh saw this and actually shed a tear. You finally got your wish, Issei. Now we can be together just like we promised. A king needs a queen to rule their land. And I will be that queen. She summons a simple picture of herself and Issei in a church. She was in a wedding dress and Issei was looking nervous but smiled in the tux that he borrowed. Now and forever. Seraphol, Sona, along with the Haidu felt the power and were covered in a blanket of warmth. Strangely, it didn't harm the devils but comforted them instead. Back to Issei, he was looking in front of him at Kuchulin. Armor appeared on his body. The pillar died and Lancer saw Issei in his new form. He wore a crown that was gold and red, a cape that was gold with the Sekiryuite symbol etched into the center. Thin but durable armor like a king's armor appeared, covering his legs, arms, and his face showed a true king in his image. His eyes were filled with resolve, but one eye was red with gold and the other was his normal brown eye. The white horse appeared with a golden mane and crimson wings on its back. Issei rubs his partner's nose and motions for it to stand back. The horse walks a few steps away and waits patiently for its master. Issei smiles and then looks at Lancer. I'm afraid I can't continue to play with you. Forgive me, Lancer, but I will give you a swift and honorable end befitting a warrior such as yourself. The lance vanishes and a sword appears in its place. Issei raises the blade and the spirits of the Knights of the Round Table appear. Comrades of Camelot. My most trusted knights. Grant me victory in this battle. The spirits join with Issei. We will be with you till the end, our king. Issei's eyes opened. Excalibur. The sword released a blast of light that covered Lancer, who didn't move and felt the corruption leave him. He sheds a tear and sees his loved ones. Thank you, Issei Haidu. You truly deserve to be my master's student. Know that I'll be rooting for you both and never forget what makes you a king. He begins to disappear. I'm honored to have faced you, Holy Dragon King of Crimson Light. He vanished without a trace. Issei let the sword vanish and said a silent prayer for the spearman. Rest in peace, my friend. Issei saw the tentacle monster and decided to aid his comrades to fight this creature. Dun Stallion. The winged horse walked to him and knelt down for his master. Issei mounts the horse and summons the lance. Time to end this. He rubs the horse's neck. Let's go, my friend. He lifts his lance and points to the abomination. To battle. The horse neighs as it flies to the air. Medea, Medusa, and Artoria tried to break the creature, but the creature's regeneration was infuriating. Artoria tried to use her noble phantasm, but she was hit by the tentacles as she tried to prepare herself. We've hardly made any progress. If only Archer or Issei were here, they could buy me some time. The neighbor is heard from the sky as Artoria looks at the winged horse with Issei on its back in a new form. Sorry for being late. Artoria, get the others out of here and aid Archer. I don't want you caught in the blast. Archer needs help, he's holding out, but not for long. Go. Artoria and the others didn't want to leave him to fight this beast, but knew that Archer needed help. Artoria shouted. Destroy that cursed abomination. Make sure there's nothing left of it. Issei nods and prepares his lance. Let's do this. A golden light covers his body as he begins to chant. I, who is about to awaken, am the Crimson King who has discarded the principles of domination. I shall walk through the path of righteousness with infinite hopes and dreams. Tentacles launched at Issei, but he sliced through them as he continued his chant. Let light be released from the ends of the world. Shatter all darkness that plagues the land. Alter Saber was struggling with the reinforcements that came to aid Archer. Split the heavens. Connect the land. I shall become the Holy Dragon King of the Crimson Light. Ilya and the others saw this and were amazed. Berserker and Astolfo saw that a new king was born today. Astolfo pondered. Maybe he'll let me join him. Ilya had a different thought. Maybe he can save my mother. Wait. If he did marry my mother, wouldn't that make him my father? She sees him flying and chanting. He wouldn't be such a bad father. I promise to all. I will bring forth a future that is shrouded in true crimson light. The lance glowed brighter than ever before. This lance will show you that light. He charges at Gilles and his creature. He aims the spear and shouts. Rongaminiad. The spear fires a beam of light that covers the creature, and Gilles doesn't feel pain. He feels relieved, like all of the darkness within him has been cast out of him. He looks to see Jean as she puts her hand out for him and smiles. Gilles moves to her and says. Forgive me, my lovely holy virgin maiden. The lights envelop him, and once the light dissipates, nothing is left, just a large crater where Castor used to be. Alter Saber was preparing her noble phantasm until she was given an order. I can kill them all here and now. But I understand. She puts her sword away. Until we meet again. She disappears. Medea, Medusa, Artoria, and Archer relax knowing the battle is over. Issei flies down to the ground and his horse walks to the other servants. We've won. Thank you all for your aid in this battle. We have dealt a massive blow to Gosha and his forces. Now it's time to go home. They nodded. Issei dismounts his horse and wills it away after giving it a rub on the snout and an apple. Issei took a step but collapsed from exhaustion from his battle with Lancer and his instant transformation. The armor dissipated and his crown vanished. He laughs a little. Guess I went a little too far. Medea and Medusa shake their heads and carry him to the others. Shiru and the others saw Issei being supported by Medea and Medusa. Luvia got to him first. Are you alright? What was that form? Bassett covered her mouth and took over for the servants. Thank you, Issei. You were a hero today. Rest up. Issei nodded and fell asleep. Medea prepared a portal and everyone made their way to it. Berserker and Ilya were the last ones before the portal closed. Gilgamesh went to the ruined mansion. This is certainly going to be an interesting battle. As much as I wanted to kill the Berserker, I think my husband deserves a good rest before I claim him. She looks at the moon. Only a queen that stands above the heavens can be with a king that splits the heavens. Issei's dream world. Issei was resting until he was woken up by someone. A woman with long blonde hair and wore a very revealing dress that showed her a crown and a veil covering her face. She wears a black dress that exposes the red markings that adorn her navel and abdomen. She smiles at him and helps him up. Hello, my king. Come, everyone is waiting for you. Issei is surprised that he was in a king's bed with a beautiful woman. Who are you? The woman smiles. I'm due time, but now there is a greater matter that must be dealt with. And what is that? She beckons him to follow her. Issei gets up and sees that he's in his balance breaker. He follows her to a great hall and two great big doors in front of her. She knocks 3 times and the doors open. The light shined for a moment until it revealed a patio with a beautiful sight. His kingdom before him revealed all of the lands of his servants united as one single land where the land is vast and wide. The people are happy and Drake seems content with this as he enjoyed the new vast skies for him to fly. Beautiful, isn't it? Issei turns to see the leaders of each class. Lancer Ambassador, Scottish. The Queen of the Land of Shadows. Archer Ambassador, Artemis. The Goddess of Hunt. Saber Ambassador, Nero Claudius. Emperor of the Roman Empire. Pastor Ambassador, Tamamo no Mae. The Fox Priestess of Peerless Beauty. Rider Ambassador, Quetzalcoatl. The Great Firebird of the Sun. Assassin Ambassador, Semiramis. Empress of Assyria. Berserker Ambassador, Florence Nightingale. Angel of Crimea. Ruler Ambassador, Lion King. Goddess Rangaminiad. Alter Ego Ambassador, Demon King Nobunaga. They walked and stood with him. Nobunaga stated. They are here for you. You are their king and emperor. You are their symbol for peace and a bright future. This is what your kingdom will be once you win this war. The war is the beginning of your kingship. Morgan waves to you. My king, they wish to hear you speak. Tell them what a king stands for, his people or his kingdom. Issei walks to the patio. He sees Drake and all of his servants that reside in his soul. Issei breathes deeply to control himself. He thinks back to all that has happened in his life. His first night in Fayuki City. Having dinner with Taiga and the others. His first day of work. Meeting Seraphil. Unlocking his power. Learning his servants' names and their powers. The training he went through all the way to the battle with the shield of Ulster and meeting the goddess before him. He opens his eyes. My people, I am just an ordinary man. I am not perfect, nor is any king in history perfect. All of the greatest heroes and villains are not perfect either. We all seek to make our mark somewhere so that we may be remembered in history whether it is good or evil. Nowadays, people believe a hero is one that fights to protect people and bring forth justice. However, heroes are people as well. People, human or supernatural, are greedy, selfish, or lustful for power. He lifts his right hand. I believe a king must uphold and bring justice to enforce the law to not encourage lawfulness. Some people believe such a way is through fear and oppression, but that is not the way I rule. He lifts his left hand as if he is comparing weight. A king must also be able to understand his people, not just rule them. If one believes that the only way to lead a kingdom is through rules, then that is the way of a tyrant. That's also how I rule my own kingdom. He then places his hands down by his side. I will rule with laws that will protect my people, but I will seek out other treasures and land to conquer in order to expand my kingdom. So that my people may live and see the beauty of the world. That is how I lead my people and kingdom. He was met with silence until he heard a slow clap from Scottish and the others started to clap, along with Drake and the other heroes around his castle. One person spoke from the crowd. What will this kingdom be called? Issei ponders and looks into the sky until it comes to him. This is a castle that will live on the land of Gaia. It's been 2 weeks since the battle at the Einsburn mansion. Since then many things have happened here in Kuo City. Issei explained everything to his parents and introduced them to the other servants within him. Despite knowing this, they still loved him as their son no matter what. His mother and father were happy when Issei told them about Medusa, Medea, Luviagilita, and Bazet. Medusa, Luviagilita, and Medea were happy chatting with Issei's mother and got to know their future mother-in-law. Bazet and Issei's father bonded very well. Issei did have to warn his father that Bazet was dating him when he got a little too drunk and tried to sneak a kiss. The girl's affection for him increased when he was willing to defend and treasure them. Goru and Mickey were happy that their son changed and grew up a little. Issei was able to control his perversion thanks to the acts of kindness and love from the girls. Speaking of girls, everyone was shocked when they learned that Astolfo, the servant that everyone thought was a girl, was actually a guy. Astolfo asked why they all thought he was a she. They pointed out many things that made them think he was a she. Astolfo did blush when he heard this and understood why. The pink-haired knight asked Issei if he could become one of his servants, but he wasn't the only one that was new to the inn. Issei asked Medea to summon a servant for each of his parents. His parents refused to leave Fayuki City, so Issei decided to ask his caster faction to summon a servant for them. Astolfo became Goru Haidu's servant, and as for Miki Haidu, her servant was actually a goddess. Her name was feared by many in ancient times. She was Ereshkigal, the goddess of the netherworld. Everyone was shocked to see that the servant was a goddess. She was a bit miffed at being a servant to a mere human and acted a bit like a spoiled brat until Mickey took her servant to her room and closed the door with a scary look on her face that both her husband and son recognized easily. She's finished. There was a lot of screaming, whacking, and cursing from the other side of the door. Many were horrified while Issei and Goru enjoyed some tea. Shiru asked them, is she really that scary? Or answered for them. Only when angered. Remember this, don't piss off women or you can kiss your life goodbye. Believe me, I have been on the receiving end of that. The room was silent as the whacking stopped. Mrs. Haidu came out with her servant clenching her bottom and sniffling as her eyes were puffy from crying. She apologized for her actions and promised to be nicer from now on. She was true to her word. Issei did comfort her a bit by giving her some oil to help with her bottom. Little did Issei know that it was the beginning of a new bond between the ruler of death and the dragon of crimson light. Astolfo enjoyed spending time with his new master and got along famously with everyone in the inn, but there were a few accidents, like when he would trip over flat ground or weirded people, out of how he acted more like a girl than a guy. Taiga actually knew of the Holy Grail War and didn't say anything because of the promise she made to Shiru's father. Shiru asked if Taiga did have a crush on his father. She did, but she never did pursue him due to circumstances. However, she promised to look after Shiru after his passing and will always thank him for everything he had done for her. She hoped to keep Shiru out of the war, but his old man rubbed off on him and got involved in this craziness. Taiga promised to help fight and protect Fuyuki City, considering it was her home as well. This made those who knew her a bit nervous since she couldn't attack or beat a normal servant. That was changed when Taiga did a 180 on her personality as she revealed herself in a mob boss attire with an Ajinata. Jaguar Man 3rd Ascension. She challenged Saber and Berserker. In the fight, her eyes were cold and calculating. Her skills surprised everyone when she finished the fight in under 3 minutes. She smiled with a fang coming out and said, "I'm not a tiger. I'm a jaguar." Ilya was actually acting differently when she was talking to Issei. She acted as if she was his daughter, and Issei saw her as if she was his own child, which resulted in a certain tiny assassin fighting her for the right of the eldest sister. He brought out a Rizviel from the caster card, and the little one cried tears of joy as she hugged her mother and her new father. The three of them did go out a few times, and when some guys were jealous of Issei having a foreign beauty with him, and some lolicans were looking at Ilya with lustful looks in her eyes. It either took a deadly glare with Issei's aura to scare them off or Berserker in his astral form to traumatize them. Sometimes the mother and daughter would go out by themselves, and Issei would be protective by staying close to shadows with black attire, a black mask, and a black baseball bat. Let's just say his dark side strikes fear into even Sona. Serapho liked him when he got protective of his loved ones. Shiru and his 3 girlfriends, they're now officially dating, made time for each other and worked to get stronger by overcoming each of their weaknesses. Shiru was able to increase the duration of his unlimited blade works from 30 minutes to 2 hours. Sakura and Rin have been working on their hand-to-hand combat skills to prepare for future enemies, and there was also some interesting news as of late. One was when the Fuyuki church was destroyed and the body of Kirei Kodaman was found under the rubble. When they investigated the body, his magic circuits were torn from his body and the priest's soul was devoured by something or someone. Bazit was able to use a spell that allowed them to see the last events in Kirei's mind. Bazit was horrified until Issei snapped her out of it thanks to a Rizviel healing Bazit's mind from breaking from the terror she saw in the mind. Bazit told them that Gosha was the one who destroyed Kirei's body, and when he left the priest, he stole Kirei's soul. A golden-haired woman disappeared during the time and destroyed the church. Gosha survived, but the magic was taken from Kirei. One villain was taken care of, but that led to more questions pertaining to the golden-haired woman and Gosha's whereabouts. Issei for some reason had been seeing dreams with him and the golden-haired woman, but for some reason he couldn't find out what her name was, no matter how hard he tried. Lately there have been kidnappings of both children and innocent men and women around 16 to 22 years old. There has been no evidence as to what or who took the people, but there were no forced entries or magic residue. It's as if they left on their own volition. Bazit and the other mages worked on trying to figure out a pattern or something to help them, but could come up with nothing. Issei asked Medea if she could find anything, but even a powerful mage like her couldn't even find anything. A few days later, something came in the mail while Issei was at work. Lupis Regina was getting the mail for the day, and as she looked through them with Medea and Rin, they found a letter addressed to Issei. They tried to open it, but it had a seal on it. Medea tried Rule Breaker, but there was an enchantment on the letter that prevented anything from harming the contents of the letter, which sent the poor woman into the kitchen covered in pans and pots. Sakura, Shermu, Ilya and Medusa came in to see what all the commotion was about and saw the letter. Rin and Lupis Regina explained that the letter could only be opened by Issei himself, since not even Rule Breaker could bust it open due to the enchantments on the seal. The front door opened to reveal Issei Haidu himself. "Hey, everyone." Medea dragged him to the living room and pushed the letter in front of him. Issei saw this and asked, "What's this?" The letter glowed gold as soon as he touched it, and the envelope opened up to reveal something within it. Issei pulled out a card and began to read aloud. "My love. It's great to see how much you've grown since we last saw each other. I know you're involved in the Holy Grail war in Gosha, but please hear me out. I'm not with that man. He made Kirei think he wanted to work with him, but all he wanted was his magic. After you and the others defeated most of his servants at the Einsburn mansion, Gosha realized he didn't need a pathetic host like Kirei, so he killed him and stole all of the knowledge that the priest had on the Holy Grail. I told that old fool 10 years ago back in the Fourth Holy Grail War that I wanted to make this world mine and mine alone, but that changed after I went to a small town called Kuo City in a disguise of my young self, where I met a sad 10-year-old who told me his friend was gone. I knew the feeling of losing a very close friend, so I spent time with him, and I could see the innocence, kindness, and warmth in his light brown eyes. I then met the boy a few months ago when he was in high school and on a holiday from his classes. I met him in my normal form and asked him if I could stay with him for a week, ironic that it was so easy playing the foreign visitor to the city. The boy took me to many places that seemed interesting, and even when he saw me trying to make advances or his beastly side came out, he stopped himself from doing anything to me. Seeing him again and spending time with him made me feel like I was truly the happiest woman in the world. Even if the Grail could grant my former wish, I could never truly be happy. I have thousands of riches, weapons, paintings, and much more in my kingdom, but what's the point of being a ruler if I have no one to rule with me and stand by my side until the end of time? My most precious memory was when there was a photoshoot event happening at that time, and the theme was a wedding. Medi and Arizviel were being held by Berserker, while Lilia and the others were crying a little from the letter. Issei felt as if it was starting to come back to him. Mr. and Mrs. Haidu were surprised and stayed quiet. The company worked with a church, and there were a few people who were actually married that day in that same shoot. The boy saw me looking at the wedding and asked me if I wanted to join the shoot, but sadly they didn't let us do it, so I had to pull a trick I had up my sleeve. I told the lady in charge everything she needed to know. I went with a classic one. How I had an incurable disease and wasn't sure how much time I had left. My doctor said that I might not have enough time for a real wedding, but the boy said I should at least be able to try on my wedding dress before I lose my battle. After hearing a story like that, she was more than happy to help me. The wedding was truly beautiful. There's a picture in the envelope, but please finish reading this before you look at the picture. The boy was nervous but stayed calm just for me. He saw my dress and was shocked that this beautiful sun goddess was before him. I laughed a little when he said that and complimented him as well. The love that we had was 1 in a million. Many people think marriage is simple, but it isn't. Marrying someone means you commit yourself to them and how you promise to spend the rest of your life with the one you love. There are hard times, but I believe we could make it work. Truly, I believe that. He taught me that a long time ago. When we were on the altar, the boy had a smile on his face, and this wasn't just a simple one. It was a smile that was filled with warmth and love. The same one I saw years ago. I believed that everything around me was a dream. I have always kept a wall around my heart, but that boy was able to break any barriers I put up with his kindness and light that he shared with me. I have protected one thing to the very end. I kept it safe, deep within my heart, and this was one unrequited dream that I would like to see play out to its end. The females were crying from the emotions that were poured into the story, and some of the guys were touched by the honesty. Even Issei shed a few tears but continued with the letter. But alas, reality had to become a deal breaker when a certain priest informed me to return from Kuo City. I didn't want to leave him, but I knew if I didn't he would be in danger, and I couldn't let that happen to the one man I loved to this day. The boy could sense my discomfort and asked me what was wrong. I told him that I had to leave, but I didn't want to. He asked why couldn't I run away. I laughed at the notion, but I confessed my love for him, and he made me cry with joy after he said he felt the same and how he was complete with me at his side. He promised me that one day we would be together and that he would have the power to save me and make me his queen. That boy was Issei Haidu. I kept watch over you and observed your growth. I saw power deep within you, and as much as I wanted to take you away from your home and show you the beauty I could offer you, I stopped myself. I knew if I did that to you, your parents would worry and maybe those 2 imbeciles you call friends. In my opinion, those are not friends. I know you became a pervert and peeked at women, but you never had the same heart that the others did at your school. In your school, all of your classmates, the 3rd and 4th years are filled to the brim with lust. Both men and women. However, your heart would never allow you to sink in that large amount of lust like the others. That's what makes you special. You love women and would do anything for them. Treat them like their queens, not as trophies or objects to release your libido. Now that you're here, I would like to invite you to a special dinner so that we could reunite once again. Please accept the invitation. Love, your golden goddess. The guys were congratulating Issei, and the girls cried more from hearing the story. Issei took out the picture, and suddenly a flood of memories entered his mind. His own memories from that time with her. He unknowingly had a tear come out of his left eye. Il-chan. He whispered to himself. He saw the time and the invite. I'll go. This is something I have to do. The girls were still happy but sad at the same time. Issei's mother hugged him and his father gave him a thumbs up. The girls helped Issei get ready for his date with Destiny. The guys saw the picture and were amazed by the woman in the picture. Astolfo was the one who broke the silence. Bang. He got himself a real knockout, even though I'm a little jealous. The others nodded in agreement, but those with girlfriends or married still loved the ones they have with them. Unknown location. The body was being dragged into a closed location. A man was terrified knowing he would be next. The gate opened in front of him to reveal a woman with pale skin and amber eyes. Her attire was that of a creature from a horror film. She grins at the man and drags him by his shirt to a room. As the door opened, she tossed him in. Now wait here. I'll be right back. She then closed the door slowly. The room was empty and dark. The man tried to find an exit on the wall, but his hand hit something sharp as it cut his hand. He fished out a lighter he had in his pocket and lit it. Around him he saw spikes made of iron. He looked down and only saw stone. The stone glowed and the earth started to move as it consumed his legs. He screamed and tried to pull off the dirt, but it didn't budge no matter how hard he tried. The door opened to reveal the pale woman. She walks to him and has a sad look on her face. Well, that's rude, and here I was going to give you a bath. She then grinned with shark teeth and her eyes glowed. An iron bath. She shoved him into the back of the room where a mold that is shaped like a human was open and waiting. The man was no match for the woman's strength and stood in the center of it. The woman raises her hand. My bath was out of water. Do your best to fill it up for me. She snapped her fingers. The mold closed on the man and his screams were muffled but heard until they finished. Blood leaked out of the bottom and a shaft carried the blood to an iron bathtub that had gallons of blood in it. She held her hand out and the spirit of the man flew out of the maiden hands. You'll be perfect for my master. She carried it out of the room into a chamber room with a large cauldron that was being stirred by a woman with wings on her back and a staff in her hand. Her ears could make one believe she was an elf. The pink-haired winged girl looked up at the pale woman and smiled. What's up, Carmilla? Carmilla holds out the soul and the witch grabs it and adds it to the cauldron. How wonderful, a new soul for our master. By the way, where's Avisabrin and Vlad? Carmilla responds. They're speaking to Gosha at this time, trying to find Gilgamesh. And where are the two berserkers, Circe? The newly named woman Circe pointed to a dungeon room where a large grey man was laying on a table with his hands and feet speared by spikes. The other one was chained to the wall wearing a bull mask and had a mane of white fluff. They're sleeping thanks to my magic. I wonder when we're going to release them, they are so annoying with their chatter. Remember, they're meant to be cannon fodder due to their noble phantasm. Circe waved her hand. Yes, but I want to go outside and spread my wings. She looks into the cauldron and has a starry look in her eyes. And maybe get a real man. Especially him. MHMM. Carmilla sighed and rubbed her forehead to calm her headache due to the irritating harpy. Easy girl. Don't let a certain boss hear you say that. She leaves the room but turns back. Oh, and let him know that I disposed of that pathetic human. He's so broken I'm surprised he can still breathe. Carmilla walked out to enjoy her bath while Circe looked in the cauldron and saw Issei enter the restaurant. Oh, Issei. Why don't you look at me with those eyes? I'm not as curvy as Miss High and Mighty, but I can give you a lot of fun. I know, right? Ah. Circe landed on her to see another pink-haired girl wearing a white fur coat and holding a whip in her hands. Geez, Med, calm down or you'll wet yourself, and how many times have I said to let me know when you enter? Med didn't care and just stared at Issei's picture in the cauldron talking to the Queen of Heroes. She had an angry look on her face. He should be looking at me. Not that hussy. HMPH. Circe looks at the cauldron and agrees with her. What's it takes to get a guy? Fayuki Park. The police officer was in her car looking in the streets wondering where the thief was taking people. So far she's got nothing but just some boring road and a few dogs and cats. Come on Fayuki, give me something. I'll even take a dead body if that's what it takes. Just give me something to relieve my boredom. Ask and you shall receive. A bloody hand hits the window. Ah. She opens the door and bashes the guy before grabbing her taser and holding it out. Stay where you are and don't move a muscle. The body reached out. Help me. Save me, it's going to kill me. The officer wondered what happened to this guy as he looked like a high schooler with holes in his shirt and pants. Barefoot and looks like he hasn't eaten a real meal in a few weeks. His hair was in a way that looked like it was being pulled from his scalp and his face was bloody and an eye was missing. She lowers her taser a little and grabs the walkie-talkie. This is Officer Jennifer, there is an individual who is in need of medical attention immediately. I'm in the North District by the Fayuki Park. Hurry. She puts it down and pulls out a blanket, some food, and water from the trunk. The boy watches her warily. Jennifer puts the food in front of her and backs away from him. He looks at it and grabs the water, chugging it down like his life depended on it. He then tore open the food like it was the last of that kind on earth. She tried to get him to talk. "What's your name?" He looks at her and shakes a little before writing on the ground. "Shinji." Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Nefarious Doctor for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.